Okay, we are recording. So, welcome to the Ultra Running Sam podcast, David Miller.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you sharing some of your knowledge with, I'm going to say customers, then with 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 our audience, not with our customers. No one pays anything for this podcast apart
Yeah.
from me. So, I am the
Trail
one.
community.
I think that's it. Yeah, the community. So you are in English, UK trail running. Well, actually, globally, you've become a household name in trail running media. But for anyone who doesn't know who you are, could you sort of give your background and how you got to where you are now in trail running media?
Sure. So I've been running about 10 years. I started off from 5K, went all the way to 100 miles. During lockdown, I just, 3 years ago, I got pretty bored, picked up a camera, and just started having a play with it and just realized it was for me. I didn't realize I was a creative until I was sort of 34 years old. And I just felt the more I was sort of playing with the camera, the more I was enjoying it. And I just sort of developed and got better, and then got an injury sort of a year and a half ago. So that put a stop to my ultra running and just allowed me to sort of concentrate more on photography. But again, I love the sport. I love trail and ultra running. It's just I'm really proud to be part of the community.
It's funny you say that actually because it's when when you're like so laser focused on a sport, and trail running does that to you, doesn't it? It sort of draws you in, and it can be like all consuming, and it's like becomes your life kind of thing. And then when you get an injury, you've got all this energy that you need to direct towards something, and if it's you haven't got another outlet, then I can see why directing that energy towards the media side of things comes in, because I had something similar happen with me when I was, that was sort of in lockdown. Yeah, sort of similar sort of scenario actually. I had like an injury, which I won't mention because I mention it on every single podcast that I do. But this sort of injury has taken me out of what I viewed as my competitive
Yeah.
trail ambitions. I'm only talking like winning local races and stuff like that, and set my sights on things like that. But that kind of this injury sort of hampered that and put a stop to that. But I'm so obsessed with trail running that I just had to sort of focus it elsewhere in the sport. So hence probably why the podcast then took off, sort of thing, starting as just something that I did occasionally to wanting to do it more. But also like just getting involved with races and going to the spine and working on the media team there, sort of thing. It feels like you're still a trail runner and you're still part of that tribe. But even if you can't run or you're injured and you can't race, it still feels like, because there's that community there, isn't there? Is that something that you've sort of seen as you've sort of put down your racing shoes as much and sort of pick the camera up more?
Exactly that. I think the injury has allowed me to concentrate more on the media. I'm from Weymouth in Dorset, and a lot of my good friends are triathletes. They're in the South Coast Sharks. They're pretty fast runners, so I try to stay fit enough to run maybe 10K with those guys. But other than that, I think races now it's an absolute no. It's the minute I sort of put any pressure on my ankle, it just, if I'm running fast, it just really hurts. So again, it's allowed me to really go down the media road and just explore what I can do and almost like find myself really and find the style I want to do without replicating anyone. And I think the main thing is I'm enjoying it. Always sort of looking to what I can do next without like replicating myself. And just it's almost opened up a whole new world really.
So I noticed you posted a load of photos and said it was something slightly different, doing your sort of your home triathlon. Was it Ironman? Was it? Is it Ironman in Weymouth?
Yeah, again, a lot of my mates were doing the Ironman Weymouth, so I thought I just applied for the accreditation. I thought it'd be rude not to, and it's just nice to mix things up. And on the day, it was raining, there was a lot of puddles, and I just had fun with the camera. And it was just nice to shoot a different sport. So whether in the future that opens up new opportunities, maybe so. I think going to something like the Tour de France and following a team round could be quite interesting for sure.
Yeah, that'd be exciting, wouldn't it? Just chasing cyclists around. Plenty of opportunities for getting a
Yeah,
good photo of somebody coming off a bike because that happens a lot.
exactly. I follow a lot of the media on the Tour de France, and I think, if we want to call it competition, it's rife. There's so many good sort of cycling photographers out there who are doing a good job. And is there a place for me to do that? Probably not. But I think if I can do that job in the trail running community, that's what keeps me happy, really. I'll keep going until I enjoy it.
Awesome. So you've sort of been to, would you say you've sort of been to all of the big ultras around? Where's the furthest you've been to shoot ultras then around the world?
Oh, without a doubt, like the Barkley in Tennessee. One ultra I haven't done, which very much is on my radar, is the Western States 100 out in Auburn. I nearly went this year. That fell through, but it allowed me to do like other stuff. But I think as I look into next year, I don't want to replicate 2023. I want to have like some fresh options. So I've got a couple of ideas, but without a doubt, I think the Western States 100 would be my A race to go out there and just try and capture Auburn and why it's seen as the endurance capital of the world. I think that would be my goal. It's nice to obviously capture the front runners, but I think as time goes on, I'm getting a lot more success capturing your everyday runner and almost the tail runners. And it's just something I enjoy doing. So I think every runner's got a story to tell.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know you. I was looking through some of your posts today, and someone had made a comment of sort of questioning why you hadn't concentrated on some of the mid-pack runners that
I've
the
seen
Baton
that.
Rouge. Yeah, and then I saw that you obviously responded to that, didn't you? With you'd got that really candid photo of the runner like on the ground, basically. Was that a direct response to that comment, or was that something that you were just going to digging through your archives of what you'd got?
Kind of. I think, if we use UTMB a few weeks ago as an example, I got up really early to go to Courmayeur because I'd never seen the Triple C start. So I thought, oh, this will be a good opportunity because I love Courmayeur. And the media pen was just packed full of photographers because it was like a stacked field. So I stood in there for maybe 15 minutes, captured some of the elites. And I thought it would be quite interesting to go down some of the side roads of Courmayeur and the back alleys. And that's where I seen just runners packing their bags, they're just away from the crowds. And I put a real effort in to capture those runners, just to try and tell the other side of the story of the Triple C.
Yeah, because that's I mean, what you do is like amazing and it's perfect. Like those shots that you get of the finishes at UTMB and stuff are like world class
Thank you.
photography. But that is true that people want to see the other side of things as well, don't they? They want to see the grittier side of, and that's where some of the best photos come from anyway, isn't it? Like just get on a chance encounter with somebody down a back alley.
Yeah, without a doubt. And again, we'll use UTMB as another example. I think this year, so Courtney finished. Obviously, I went to bed that night because all the media were really tired. It's obviously you're doing a loop of Mount Blanc, and it's just really tiring. So I went to bed, went to the media centre the next day, and was looking through my photos with fresh eyes. I was pretty happy with what I had, but I just felt something was missing and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to pack up my camera one last time and I'm going to go down to the finish line. And it was the tail runners from UTMB, like the last finishers. And literally within 2 minutes, this chap crossed the line and he was bawling in tears. And I managed to zoom in on him. And some of you guys might have seen it, a black and white photo of an ultra runner crying. And yeah, within 2 minutes, I got the photo I needed or I wanted. And sometimes I just get like a bit of a sixth sense, if I've had enough or not. But I think that almost like completed my photo diary from UTMB. And then obviously Strava went on to use that on their website, which was good. And yeah, and a great platform for me to use.
Yeah, amazing. It's great having that kind of support where where you've got how have Strava sort of got involved with your sort of photography projects things? I saw that you posted about that and the support that you got from them.
Yeah, I think like over the years, you've got to like put yourself out there. It's a tough one because actually Strava got in contact with me like a couple of days before UTMB and wanted to do some collaborations, which was great. I jumped at the chance. Normally I would contact brands first and just say, do you want to do something? But it was really nice for Strava to sort of come to me. And again, I've wanted to do a photo diary for a long time for any event, whether it's the Barclay, UTMB a couple of years ago, but it almost feels like brands or publications haven't believed in what I wanted to do in the vision. But this year it was basically on a plate. So I obviously took that. Yeah, and they've put out something I'm really proud of. And it's be online forever, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. If a good photo will stand the test of time, won't it? And they'll keep reusing it and bringing it back up for those races, wouldn't they? Absolutely.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So just thinking about going back to your route into race photography, then how did you go from knowing that you can take a decent enough photo and how did you approach a race and say I want to come and get on the press team, on the media team? How did you, because using my example as a dodgy example of how to get into media with Western, I did go to Western States last year, and I basically just blagged my way onto the media team. Just sent a few emails to a few people. Sent one to Billy Yang, and Billy Yang directed me to somebody else. They emailed them and just said, "I work in media," because obviously they wouldn't know who I was anyway. I work in media, kind of. I helped out on other races with media and everything. Can I come and do anything? I'll be happy to help on the media team. And I ended up doing a follow cam at Auburn from Roby Point down to the finish and filming everybody come through over the first top 10 men and women coming through and then golden the next day and stuff. And it was for me, it was an absolute dream to be able to do that. But that was just me sort of blagging my way in there. I did a good enough job so that they wanted me to come back. And I wanted to go back this year, but I couldn't make it work. But hopefully I'm going to go back next year and do it. But what was your approach to kind of getting a foot in the door with these big races?
I think earlier I talked about lockdown. For me, it kind of changed everything. My girlfriend Anna, she gifted me a camera, which I still use to this day. I use a single camera and a single lens, so I'm never near the most skilled photographer out there. There's many more sort of skilled photographers than me, but I think if you've got a sort of natural eye for pictures and composure, it always outweighs the skill. So I progressed with that, and then there was an opportunity to go to UTMB in 2021, which was obviously the lockdown year. When we were out there, we were told it was quite quiet in comparison to normal years. And again, I couldn't believe that at the time because it was still quite busy. But that felt like a lucky pocket for me to be able to shoot such a big event. Luckily for me, I got quite a nice photo of Courtney finishing. When I look back, I look at the picture and I think, oh, it was a little bit blurry on that corner and I'm not quite happy with it. But it did quite well, and it sort of opened up opportunities, and it allowed me to go back, in 2022 and obviously this year. But in between those, fill in other events locally. So like in the UK, the Arc of Attrition. I've been to the Sky Masters out in Bilbao, and I just think over the 3 years, I feel like I've been learning my craft and finding the style. But without a doubt, that UTMB in 2021 opened the floodgates and opened opportunities. And at the time, I felt like it was lucky. Can I do this? But over the last couple of years, again, I've just felt I've developed more. Yeah, and I feel like I can carry on doing this. So long as it's sustainable. A good example this year. So I got an email a couple of days ago from the British Photography Awards, I took a photo of Matthew Blanchard last year at UTMB on the floor, and that photo it's kind of done its rounds. I think I've posted it a fair few times and people have seen it, and I'm thinking, you know, people are bored of this image now. I need to do something else. But it's done well in this competition, and we've been invited up to London in November. So hopefully it can go on, you know, to win a category or get a people's award. But again, for me, that would be quite a fitting end to that chapter for where I could go next. But we'll see. We'll see if the stars are.
Because I reposted that for you, and then I saw like loads of people all started reposting it, didn't they? What can people do to sort of get involved with that and sort of push your side of things? Can they repost that to their social media, or is there something that they can get on, and can you get on and vote like for the people? You say for the people's choice, you can do that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you just go onto my like Instagram account and then in the bio you can just hit the link. But basically, there's many categories. I'm under the sporting category. You can't control the judge's choice for the overall winner, but there's something called the people's choice where you can just go on and vote for the best photo in that category. But looking across the category, there's photos of Messi, the Wimbledon winner. But I just think, you know, in the trail ultra running community, it would be really nice if we could have a, you know, push this UTMB photo, because it would be good for the sport. But ultimately, it would be good for me, and it could be the difference of whether I do this for years to come. You know, it's one of those. I just feel it's quite an, you know, it's important, and it's a good opportunity for me to progress further. We'll see though.
Absolutely. So what's your sort of situation now with like your day job and having this as like a side project? Is this your goal then, that ultimately if you could, you know, do this full time, that's obviously what you want to do, isn't it?
I think like as time goes on, I feel like I'm winging it a little bit, but whether that's a bit of imposter syndrome or something, I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure I would do this full time. I think if I was going to shoot races every week, I feel like I would get a bit complacent. But if I could, you know, stick to my day job, maybe go part time. So I'm actually a gas engineer. That's my trade. If I could go part time and target key events in the year, so whether that's your Western States, your Barclay, you know, your UTMBs, I think I'd be happy doing that with some side projects as well. It's strangely enough, like this year, I've got, you know, no plans really on the racing front. I was obviously going to go to the awards in November and then plan for next year after that. This year, I've got a couple of little projects, but again, no races really, and it's quite a nice position to be in. So it gives me a bit of breathing space, so you can sort of look back to see what you've done, what changes you can make. Again, I put up a photo the other day, and again, it isn't a brilliant photo by any means. It's a black and white photo of a lady, you know, typically the runner's wife, just consoling the runner on the floor, and he looks like he's puking up in the drain. A little bit controversial, felt uncomfortable to post, but I had a good reaction from it because I wanted to know people's thoughts. And I think going forward, I'm going to do sort of more documentary style photos like that, which are shot from the hip, and almost photos you won't expect.
That was the one that I was talking about. That's the one that I'd seen. And if that was like the reaction to somebody saying that you need to do more back of the pack type stuff. Yeah. It's great photo. And it is a reality of ultra running being sick.
Without a doubt. I thought again during UTMB this year there was a massive emphasis on the elites. You know, and sometimes it's sad to see. You want to see your everyday runner, and I don't, you know, touch wood, I don't think I'll ever change. I'll hopefully always have an eye for that for as long as I'm doing this.
Yeah. Well, a good photo is a good photo, isn't it? So you'll obviously have the elites that kind of almost make their own composition, don't they? Because of the atmosphere and they're there coming through to the finish line. It's almost not that you can't not take a good photo. You still have to have a good eye, don't you? They kind of sort of sort themselves out, and then you've got a good photo of somebody in the mid pack that if it's a good photo, it's a good photo, and people will appreciate good composition the photo, and especially if you're telling a story as well.
Without a doubt, I can use like the Barclay for an example. Like that. It's this year we've seen 3 finishes, which is really bizarre. We've all seen the documentaries. Very, very lucky year. But when I look back at the photographs, my favourite one, like I've taken, was in the shower block. So obviously, I don't know how much you know about Frozen Head or where it's situated, but it's basically like a small campsite. You've got the gate, and then you've got a shower block in the middle, and the runners at night go to the shower block because it's warm. But there was a mid-pack runner called Ben Yancey, and he did 2 laps, and it meant the absolute world to him. He trained very hard for this, did 2 laps, and we all know how hard 2 laps is at the Barclay. But I've got a photo of him sat down in that shower block, and the look on his face could be he's knackered, it could be he's happy, and it's one of my favourite photos I've ever taken. But you would think it would be one of the finishers at the gate, but it's not. Sometimes the better photos come at the most unexpected of moments.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your if you could pick your favorite, what has been your favorite race to have gone to and got great shots at?
I think UTMB. I love the running community. I love the build up, but during the actual race itself, I just find the whole thing hard and quite mentally draining because you're always trying to outdo yourself. I think the Barclay was easily the most laid back. It was very, very long days, but it was laid back because you're only allowed in 2 locations. You're only allowed obviously in the camp, and then it's a short drive over to Ratjaw where you hike 45 minutes up, take the photos of the runners on the top, and then come back down. But as for a favourite photograph, you've interviewed a runner called Jack Scott on here before.
Yeah.
Went to UTS a couple of years ago, hiked up Snowdon with a bad ankle, hoping for these beautiful views on top. And it was just misty. There was just nothing. And I thought, well, this is going to be rubbish. And I just remember him.
I know the shot you're going to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's his glance, I think. The composure is irrelevant, really, but it's just his glance. And then there's like a course marker on the right. It's like a lovely sort of shade of blue. And I just really like that photograph. I think that's still my favourite, like to this day. And again, just for me to go and try and replicate that, or anyone try to replicate it would just be too difficult, because all of it's natural. Whether he was glancing back, at the view or at me, I don't know. But yeah,
it's a great picture. That is. So that exact shot, I used that as the thumbnail for the interview that I did when I put it on YouTube, and I did actually tag you in that.
Yeah.
I did credit you. But it's a great, like, it's an unusual, it's like a weird angle, isn't it? And it's not your standard like race photography shot, but it sums up what you would see if you were a runner and if you were following or chasing another runner. You'd see that, or if you were talking to another runner, so it's almost like it's a snapshot of the race, isn't it, without it being set up. And because a lot of like race photography is like you're in one position, everybody comes towards you, and you get a shot of each runner as they come through. That's like your bog standard race photography, isn't it? That everybody gets a photo of them, but that shot is like on another level, isn't it?
I think there's a time and a place for that style of photography as well. I think the race directors need those photographers because it's, if I get commissioned, the first thing I say is, look, I can't capture every runner. I don't operate that way, but we'll use that photo as Jack as an example going up Snowdon. I didn't intentionally mean to take that photo. And I think as time goes on, that's the story of my life. I don't ever mean to. It just kind of comes out. I find if I try too hard, the results are not so good. But I think as time goes on, again, I've just got a lot more time to experiment. I find the longer I set up a shot, the worse the shot is. The more sporadic the shot is, the better for me. But it's taken me quite a while to realise that.
I suppose that's more of an artist's approach, isn't it, to photography rather than it being like a set up shot where you're measuring everything out and changing angles and stuff. Whereas if it's just you see it, you shoot it, and it turns out the way that you saw it, then that's exactly how it should
Yeah,
be.
yeah, exactly. And it's just taken me like a long time to realize this as well. But someone made a comment the other day that, we enjoy your documentary style photography. And I think, yeah, I've never really looked at it that way before, but maybe it is. Yeah, I take a lot of inspiration though from other photographers on the scene. There's so many good ones. There's a lot of good up and coming ones as well. And to be honest, I never really see myself in the mix. It's just something I love doing. And again, yeah, it's great to be part of the community.
Have you got any photographers that you sort of view as it's inspiration for you, or sort of people that you look up to in the sport?
Yeah, without a doubt. There's, pretty much at the Barclay, you've got Howie Stern out in the States, who's very good, a really nice chap. He showed me the ropes. And there's obviously Alexi Berg out in France. He's he's seen as the GOAT. Yeah, his shots are unbelievable. I think, particularly his night shots. I don't think anyone can touch him in the business. He's just got the eye. He's got the lot, and obviously he's releasing the books. And yeah, he's an inspiration for sure.
So is that something you sort of see yourself? Because you talk about like imposter syndrome. Do you feel like you'll ever get to a point where you don't feel like you've got imposter syndrome, or do you think that's something that's always going to stay with you and keep you grounded as a humble photographer?
Yeah, possibly. It's one of those words now you hear on a daily basis. But I think because I've still got my day job and I do this for fun, sometimes you do forget to look back and see what you've done. I was only at a party this weekend for a friend's 30th, and this guy came chatting to me about the Barclay, and you could tell he was just really, really interested, where I was quite grounded talking about it. But afterwards, I thought, you know what, I am really lucky to have gone out there and witnessed it. But sometimes it takes so long to sink in to see how lucky you are. But then some people will say, you're lucky, you're not lucky, you've worked hard to get there. I'm not sure really. I just chip away.
Yeah, just roll with it and keep
Yeah,
enjoying.
yeah, just roll with the punches. But again, I go to some events where I'm just not happy with the photos at all. There'll be one or two that I might put out there, but I don't think I'd ever put out anything I wasn't happy with. And that's, whether that's down to a bit of perfectionism, I just think that's in the media world anyway. And I think that's kind of what makes us who we are, really.
Yeah, in your nature to be a perfectionist.
Yeah, to be
Yeah, that makes
the
sense.
best you can, really. There is a couple of changes I want to make next year. You know, I want to add another style of photography to what I do, but it's something I'll make the investment and then show you guys on Instagram. But it's one of those, if I told everyone now, there'd be a lot of people listening and almost like copying. And it's not that I wouldn't want the competition, but it's just I would like to try this first.
That's interesting. So I can't ask you what that is then.
No, but put it this way: if it comes to effect, I think it could potentially be a game changer for sure.
Wow, interesting. That's a cliffhanger for people. When will people have to wait to find out about that then?
Sometime next year, whenever I make the investment, really. But it's again, I've never really invested in gear since I got gifted the camera. I use a single camera, a single lens. I've invested to go to UTMB
Yeah.
and events like that, but obviously this year it's a bit different. I get approached more than invest in myself. But yeah, there's a fine line and there's a nice balance now. So that's what's allowed me to carry on doing this.
So what races? I know you talked about you've not been to Western States. So are there any races that you for next year not really having a plan? Have you sort of sat down and thought, I really want to go here and go there?
Yeah, I would hate to sort of replicate this year. I get asked if I'm going to go back to the Barclay again next year. I'm not sure. I think personally, I can't see another Barkley finisher next year. Although I think I'm almost certain the next Barkley finisher will be Damien Hall. I think if he wants it, I think it's there for him based on him doing 4 laps first attempt. But I'm not sure I'm going to go next year. I'll wait till Christmas and decide that one. But again, I'll put all my eggs into the Western States basket and then go from there. I think right now I'm like, no, I'm not going to go to UTMB. I'm sort of done with it for now. But I think as next year goes on, the law will be too much, and yeah, I'll probably be back out there.
Too much temptation to go back. But I mean, yeah, if you I can send you some email addresses for people on the inside of the UTMB, not UTMB, of Western States. Definitely, people to talk to. I mean, you'll be able to get on there anyway.
Yeah, that would be, anything like that would be fantastic. There's a couple of low key events I'm targeting next year, but again, it's one of those I can't say too much about, just because if I do, all of a sudden there might be sort of 3 or 4 photographers there, and then I'll totally lose the effect I want. But it is extremely low key, and it's something that will probably suit my style. So that will be early next year. I would like to try and come up to the Spine. I can say that. I know Will on the media team. I was going to come up last year, but I decided to do like the Arc of Attrition instead. But the Spine's something that interests me. I think you could get some really nice shots in the checkpoints, and obviously on the snowy Pennine Way.
Yeah, it is a great race, that. And you because I was on the media team last year, you get treated like royalty by all of the checkpoints. So
yeah.
Because I mean, I'd volunteered before and been on a checkpoint and seen sort of what the race was like, and then I went back as on the media team, and you sort of given like a red carpet wherever you go, because they understand that you need to be everywhere to get photos, to get videos and stuff. So I would, if you fancy a week of being tired and driving around a lot, I'd absolutely recommend it. And if you know Will's always up for extra pairs of hands, that's for sure. I've annoyed him this year because I won the volunteer lottery, so I've got a place in the race. So I'm doing the full Winter Spine this year. So you'll probably see me if you come up and take some photos. I'll be near the back, that's for sure.
It's something that interests me, whether I could potentially come up for the week or a couple of days. I think Montaigne, the main sponsor, I could potentially do something there. But I think again next year for me, I need to change things up and do some different events rather than just copying myself all the time. It's always good to keep things fresh and do new projects.
Those two I'd absolutely recommend: Spine in January and Western States in June. That's I'm obviously at the Spine to race it this year, to race it, to try and get through it, try and complete it. But Western States, I'm 100% going back. Me and mate of mine, Ben, we're making plans to be out there, because there's a race the week before in there. There was is it Broken Arrow? Is it Broken Arrow?
Yeah.
I think that's the week before in Tahoe, and obviously the end of that week is when Western States starts from the same place. So possibility of the wife doesn't know about this yet, but she doesn't listen to the podcast, so she'll never know.
Yeah. I think the thing is with the Western States, so you probably know a bit more. I've been told it's quite hard to get round by car. Is it like towards the end? That would be quite annoying.
Yeah, I think you've got to pick your places to go. There are specific places, those checkpoints, all the ones you've heard of, all those, all the famous ones that you've heard of, like Forest, all of that, and the river crossings and things like that. I think there's certain places where access is not easy, but you can get in if you've got a truck or a car. So last year I was with a guy, Dan Davis, who's like very prolific on US volunteering at races and stuff, and he'd got a truck all set up. He'd got like big massive truck. He'd got 2 electric bikes. He'd got like 2 big ice boxes in the back of it, and he was like 100% set up for what we were doing, and I was just like, I didn't know what I was doing, and he's like, right, I've got a spare phone that you can use on a gimbal. Here, use this,
Wow.
and he got it absolutely sorted. So I was like running like a madman because it's only a mile from Roby Point to the finish on the track, but
Yeah.
obviously it's a mile downhill. So I spent a lot of time sort of running. I think I ran about 40 miles like over the course of 2 shifts filming people because I've just tracked it because I was like, I know I'm going to do some mileage doing this. So I was just running backwards and forwards, uphill, downhill, following the runners. And so that, as far as all I got to see of the course was literally that bit, Roby Point to the finish. So because I didn't only got there sort of in the day on race day, I didn't have a chance to get there before and go and see the start in Tahoe and everything. But I know there's certain places you can get in, but you've got to have transport basically. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think, and again, where the runners are doing it, or the front runners are doing it in like 14 hours, it's just it will just absolutely fly by. But again, next year, if I can get myself on that river crossing, I'll think, yeah, I've made it now. That's where I want to be. And I'll probably just get a load of crap photos there, but yeah, that's where I want to be. Sure.
I mean, it's worth it for just for the atmosphere. It felt like a bit of a. It was because of I've grown up in ultra running, seeing that race.
Yeah,
It's like the pinnacle of US like trail running to me,
for
and
sure.
it felt like a bit surreal to be there. It was just
Yeah,
like there was one point where I was at the checkpoint and we were sort of stood around waiting for Adam Peterman, who was winning that year. He was at the front, waiting for him to come through, and it was like hot. It was a checkpoint. I was chatting to loads of people, interviewing people, like for just like a little video that I was making. Red Hot Chili Peppers were like blaring at the
yeah,
speakers. There was like loads of ice, buckets everywhere, full of ice. And I was like, I just had this real like bizarre moment of like, I don't know why am I here? I don't know. Don't feel like I shouldn't be here. It just feels like something a bit surreal, like a dream. And I've tried
yeah.
to sort of explain it to people, and they look at you like a bit of a weirdo. But when you love trail running so much, those kind of places. I mean, I still haven't been to UTMB. I've been to Chamonix loads for snowboarding,
Yeah,
but never
yeah.
been in. So that's another thing that I'm probably going to try and do next year with the family is get out there.
Without a doubt, it's like again, UTMB is super special. But I think again, like I mentioned earlier, it's the community. Like me and Anna, my girlfriend, were just walking around Chamonix, and the amount of people and bump into. Like one minute we're bumping into Robbie Britton, like then we're having breakfast with him. Further up the road, you're seeing like Hayden Hawks. It's mad. You just know everyone. And again, like I was editing photos in the media centre, and like Courtney walked in behind me, and I've never met her before. I've taken
Mm.
some photos of her, so it was nice to have like a proper chat with her, just to see, what her plans are next, and if she's going back to the Barclay and that. So
Amazing. Yeah. What were her plans for next year? Did you say?
she just said she's going to go on vacation. Yeah, have a long hard vacation.
Yeah, a well-deserved one after all those races that she's won and course records she's set.
Yeah, she just makes it look easy, doesn't she? I think we're so lucky right now to just have her in the scene flying the flag. And
Mm.
again, I think Killian put out quite an interesting blog a few years ago regarding her performance in 2021, with how close she's coming to male athletes now. She's breaking that like 10% barrier they talk about. Yeah, it's great for the sport, really
Mm.
is.
I was this when was it earlier this well no end of last week I interviewed Hugh Chatfield and Robin Cassidy, the winners, male and female winners of Dragon's Back.
Yeah,
Um, and she obviously she won the women's race, but she was actually third overall. And when you think about how far women's running has come, when you hear the stories, it was only in the recent past that women weren't allowed to run in marathons and stuff, and it's just
yeah,
like that over a long distance. It feels like as the years go on, that barrier is going into it, and that anything is absolutely possible for male or female. It just seems to be the sky's the limit.
Without a doubt, I think it was a 2:11 marathon yesterday, the day before
Yeah.
as well, wasn't it? Yeah, and again, a good ultra runner in this country, that Emma Stewart, she won the Tour de France, didn't she, last week? Can't quite pronounce it, but yeah,
Yeah.
she's something special. I can see her going on to do bigger and better things for sure.
Yeah, amazing. There's so much potential out there, isn't there, for
Yeah,
people? So many races to do all over the
yeah,
place.
yeah.
Do you you talked about your injury. Is it something that you're working on and you're going to try and get back into racing again, or are you just happy just sort of plodding around?
I think so. Like I would come back and do another ultra for sure. I think if I, luckily got onto the Western States one day, I'd train my heart out to do that. I think the other one is the Arc of Attrition down in Cornwall, because where I'm based on the south coast, I live in Weymouth, like on the Jurassic coast. So I've done the Wanner. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one. It's like an 82 miler, but the Arc of Attrition down in Cornwall is the big one down here. I've done the 50 like before I got injured, but I would come back potentially and do the 100, only because I would have a lot of support and I'd have a lot of mates who would, have sort of helped me round. Yeah, I'm just, do you know what though? I think if I did that, I would need like quite a bit of help. I don't think you're allowed paces on there, but that's the sort of thing I would like. I haven't got like a strong mentality to go out and do these laps of Mount Blanc and that. I'm just not that way inclined. But again, it took me years of running to realise, oh, maybe I'm better at the short distance. And again, during lockdown, I got in like a half decent shape. I think I did a 17:52 5K. But again, that's just completely gone out the window now. But again, I'm enjoying the photography, so I can't sort of be too hard on myself on that.
Yeah, never rule it out, because there's, when
Yeah,
you see runners, I'm 43, nearly 44, and I've had my injuries over the years, but I still keep plugging away. And I'd see people like Damien Hall and in the US like Jeff Browning, Bronco Billy, like
yeah,
winning 100 milers in his like 50s, and you just think, the potential that's still there for, if you feel like your running career is over, but you can come back to it, can't you?
yeah, yeah. So your best athletic years are ahead of you. I think that's a good,
Yeah.
a good slogan. But yeah, without a doubt, I hope I can come back and do another ultra. But then that's the sort of thing where the race directors will say, "Oh, are you going to do the race photography for me?" I'll be like, "No, I'm going to run." But yeah,
Yeah,
never say never. I think as long as I can stay fit and stay half in shape, I'll be happy.
yeah.
I can get my endorphins that way.
Yeah, because actually that's a good point, that you to be a race photographer or be involved with race media, you have to have a certain level of fitness. You don't see any like massively overweight trail running photographers, do you? Because you've got to get yourself into certain places that people would struggle to run up to, let alone you hike with a load of gear.
Without a doubt, like UTS is a really good example of that. Snowdonia, we worked so hard up there; it's ridiculous up and down those mountains. Yeah, and based on the south coast, it's a bit of a shock the further north we go. And then when we go to
Yeah.
Chamonix, you're altitude anyway. You're running sort of 300 meters around the track, and it all of a sudden feels like 400 meters. And yeah, just a bit of a wake up call for us Southerners.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's I'm quite fortunate to live on the edge of the Peak District, so I've got hills, but I definitely haven't got mountains. That's for sure. I have to sort of travel to Wales for mountains myself. But yeah, it keeps you fit just running around with a camera, doesn't it, chasing people, and you don't always realise how much you're doing. That's why I think when I went to Western last year, and I remembered to clock it with my Garmin. I was thinking, I'm glad I did that, because if I'd not done that, I would have known how tired I was. I would have wanted to see how many miles I've ran, just to sort of for bragging rights kind of thing.
Yeah, because that's the thing as well. Like even if I was training for an ultra or whatever, to find the consistency in the training would be so difficult, because once you shoot an event, like you're training a little bit because you're hiking around taking the photos. But honestly, for me personally, the editing process takes longer than the event itself. And it can be quite a grueling process. Some nights you can get quite a few photos done. I mean, I don't edit mine too much, but I like to kind of make the line straight and make everything as perfect as I can. But again, that's just me. But that process can be, yeah, some nights I can be quite hard on myself, like it isn't good enough. So I have to shut the laptop and then start again the next day. And you sometimes just a sleep or a break for a day, you can see things from a new perspective. I might well do that over the coming week. You know, I might have a look through my card at the UTMB photos again. So there's probably about 9,000 photos. You know, and only maybe 40 to 50 will make the cut. So sometimes you do find little hidden gems, and it's like, oh God, I wish I put that out there.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I think when you look back on stuff, sometimes if you're looking for a certain picture and you get that picture, then do you almost sort of stop looking at your catalog to see what else you've got, sort of thing?
I tend to scan through, and the best ones I obviously upload. It's almost like a bit of a photographer's. It's like a sixth sense. You kind of just know your best photos just by scanning through quickly. I think it's based on composure, maybe how the runner looks, the view, the lighting. But sometimes, again, especially during events like UTS, UTMB, Barkley, you can easily miss things where everything's 100 miles an hour. So I guess it's a thing in the industry sometimes to upload old photos you may have missed. But yeah, hopefully nothing too good, because you would have missed a trick.
Definitely. So how do you sort of see trail running media changing? I know you've been in the business for 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah, about 4 years. I think I've just sort of like crept into it, almost like unintentionally. I kind of have made a name for myself, but I never really intended to do that. It's never been the goal. The goal's always been to enjoy it and put out what photography I like. But the way I see trail running media going, there seems to be like a bit of a blurry style out at the moment. A lot of the photographers are doing, but I think it's important to stay sort of true to your style. I can see more reels and I can see more films being made. I seen one of the Spanish photographers with like a drone. He was wearing like a helmet, almost like a VR sort of thing. And the video he put out was insane. It's next level stuff. But I think going forward, I'm going to stay away from drones, and I don't think I'll ever do videography or reels. I think it sounds like too much work. I think I'm going to stick almost to my documentary style, but like I said, next year try to enhance it slightly, which I think will pay off. And just stay true to my roots. Really, I think there will always be a place for storytelling and documentary style.
Yeah, that's it. The classics never go out of style. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like black and white. Some photos look rubbish in black and white, others look good. But over the last sort of year or so, sometimes I add like a black and white, and it just sometimes makes the image. It just adds a bit more drama to it. But again, it's each to their own. I guess everyone has different opinions on photography, and that's
Good photo is a good photo though, at the end of the day, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So for people to sort of get involved with you, then where do you want to direct people to go and look at your stuff? Have you got a dedicated website, or are you using your Instagram and all the social media to sort of direct people to?
Yeah, I think Instagram's probably the best place to go. So davidmiller.photography. I think Instagram, from day one, it was supposed to be like a photo app. So it's always been cool. I think obviously there's a lot more reels and stuff on there now. I find websites are a bit of a portfolio for brands and that to look at. But yeah, I think the best place to sort of keep up with my photography and what I'm doing is without a doubt, Instagram.
Yeah, brilliant. So I'll put a link to your Instagram in the show notes. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking and giving us a bit of a behind the scenes sort of chat about trail running media and your place in it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you've got planned for next year.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks very much for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Cheers.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.